Imagine for a moment a training method that could dramatically boost your explosive power. Think a higher vertical jump without the heavy joint-straining lifts you usually associate with that kind of progress. Sounds almost, well, almost too good to be true, right?
It really does. But today, that's exactly what we're diving into. How a technique called blood flow restriction, or BFR exercise, actually impacts jump performance.
And we're doing it by looking closely at a really fascinating study.
Yeah, it's titled Enhancing Jump Performance Through Blood Flow Restriction Squat Exercise, a muscle synergy analysis using wavelet packet transformation. Quite a mouthful, but really interesting work.
Okay, who's behind this research?
The authors are Chenxi Hu, Ning, Yanfeng Li, Olivier Girard, and Tao Mei. And you can find it published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. That's volume 24, pages 578 to 588, and it came out online September 1st, 2025.
Got it. So our mission for you today is to unpack how this BFR squat exercise specifically gives an acute enhancement to counter-movement jump performance.
Exactly. And what's really novel here, the exciting part, is looking at how it does it by refining muscle synergy and neuromuscular activation patterns.
Right, so it's digging into how our bodies control movement in a smarter way, maybe?
Precisely. It gives us some genuinely fresh insights.
Okay, before we jump in too deep, maybe we should quickly define some key terms for everyone.
Good idea. Let's start with blood flow restriction, BFR. Fundamentally, it involves applying a specialized cuff to a limb, usually an arm or leg.
Right.
And during low-load exercise, like the squats in the study, the cuff limits the blood flowing back out through the veins while only partially restricting the arterial blood flowing in.
So kind of trapping some blood in the muscle.
In a controlled way, yes. And the benefit, it's pretty remarkable. You can get strength gains comparable to lifting much heavier weights, but with significantly less mechanical stress, less wear and tear.
That's huge. Okay, what about the counter movement jump, the CMJ?
Ah, the CMJ. Yeah, if you've ever seen an athlete kind of dip down quickly before jumping up explosively, like for a rebound or a spike.
Yeah, that coil and spring.
Exactly. That's a counter movement jump. It's a standard test, really widely used for measuring lower limb explosive power, something lots of athletes are constantly chasing.
Makes sense. And then you mentioned muscle synergy analysis. That sounds complex.
It is, but the concept is fascinating. It's about understanding how our central nervous system, the CNS, coordinates groups of muscles. It doesn't just flick individual muscle switches on and off.
Right.
Instead, it activates muscles in these cohesive patterns, these synergies. Think of it less like solo musicians and more like conducting sections of an orchestra to create coordinated movement.
I like that, the orchestra analogy. Okay, so if the CNS is the conductor and the muscles are the orchestra, how do these researchers actually listen in on those sections?
That's where the WPT-NMF comes in. It stands for a Wavelet Packet Transform-Based Non-Negative Matrix Factorization.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's an advanced analytical tool, but what it lets researchers do is look at the muscle signals, the SEMG, in a really detailed way. Not just if a muscle is active, but how it's active across different frequencies and over time.
So it's like getting the sheet music for each section of that orchestra.
That's a great way to put it, especially crucial for understanding something as quick and dynamic as a jump.
All right, so who participated in this study then?
They recruited 15 healthy males, all resistance trained, average age around 23, 24 years old.
So people who already knew their way around a squat rack.
Definitely. They specified at least 3 years of training experience, and importantly, they were already proficient in both squats and the counter movement jump itself. That helps ensure the results weren't just due to learning the movement.
Right, consistency. So what was the actual procedure? Walk us through it.
Okay, so first, standard stuff.
Right.
They measured everyone's 1 rep max, their 1 RM, on the squat, and also their thigh circumference. Then, the participants performed baseline CMJ tests, just jumped normally to see their starting point.
Yeah.
Then came the BFR session. This involves squats, but low load, only 30% of their 1 RM.
30%, okay. That's pretty light.
It is. And while squatting, they had a pneumatic cuff on their upper thigh, inflated to 40% of their individual arterial occlusion pressure.
Okay, and the sets and reps?
It was 4 sets. The first set was a bit longer, 30 repetitions. Then the next 3 sets were 15 reps each. And crucially, only 60 seconds rest between sets.
Wow, okay, 30 reps, then 15, 15, 15 with short rest. That sounds Bernie, even at lightweight with BFR.
Oh, absolutely. That metabolic stress is part of the mechanism. And then immediately after finishing the last BFR squat set,
Back to jumping.
straight back to the CMJ tests. And they were recording muscle electrical activity, the SEMG, from 8 key lower limb muscles throughout the jumping, along with the jump performance data itself.
8 muscles, like
Yeah.
quads, hamstrings, glutes, calves.
Exactly. Rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis, the quads, semitendinosus, biceps femoris, hamstrings, gluteus maximus, tibialis anterior down the shin, and gastrocnemius lateralis, the calf. So a good overview of the prime movers.
Okay, so the moment of truth. What happened to the jump performance after those BFR squats?
This is where it gets really interesting. The study found that this single acute session of BFR squat exercise significantly improved jump performance.
Significantly, like noticeably better.
Yes, both the actual jump height in the CMJ and another measure called the Reactive Strength Index Modified, or RSI-MOD, increased right after the exercise.
Yeah, and was this just a fluke, or?
Nope. Statistically significant. The p-value was less than 0.001, which in research terms means it's highly unlikely the result was due to chance.
Okay, p.001, that's strong. What about the effect size? Did it make a real difference?
It did. Cohen's D was 0.45 for jump height and 0.34 for RSI mod. Those are considered small to medium effect sizes, but definitely meaningful in a practical athletic context, a definite performance boost.
Incredible. So lifting light with BFR gives an immediate power up for jumping. The big question then is how? You mentioned muscle synergies before. Did the brain just invent new ways to jump?
That's the fascinating part. No, it didn't seem to. The researchers consistently identified 4 main muscle synergy modules controlling the jump, both before and after the BFR exercise. That number didn't change significantly.
4 modules, so the basic blueprint, the overall strategy the brain uses for jumping, stayed the same.
Exactly. It suggests our central nervous system has this remarkably stable core framework for controlling complex movements like a CMJ. It doesn't just rewrite the whole program on the fly.
Okay, if the blueprint is stable, what did change? Back to your orchestra analogy, did some instruments just start playing louder or softer?
That's precisely it. While the number and general function of the synergies remains stable, the contribution how much each muscle weighed in within each synergy did change significantly. It's about modulation.
Ah, okay. So fine-tuning the existing pattern. Can you walk us through those 4 synergies and what shifted?
Sure. Let's take synergy 1. This one's active mainly during the initial dip, the unweighting down to the bracing phase. The main muscle here was the tibialis anterior, the shin muscle controlling the ankle.
And did that change?
Not significantly in terms of its dominance. It suggests that basic ankle control strategy during the descent remained pretty stable.
Okay, makes sense. Synergy 2.
Synergy 2 kicks in from the braking phase into the start of the upward propulsion. The gastrocnemius, the calf muscle, was dominant here for that push-off. But here's a key change. Post-BFR, the gluteus maximus contribution within this synergy increased by about 33%.
33% more glute activation.
Okay.
So the hips are contributing more forcefully to that upward drive.
Exactly. Now, synergy 3, this is really the main propulsion phase, pushing up into the air, primarily driven by the knee extensors, the quads.
Rectus femoris, vastus lateralis, vastus medialis.
Correct. And here we saw more big shifts. Again, the gluteus maximus increased its contribution substantially by around 57%.
Wow, glutes really getting involved post-BFR.
They really are. But interestingly, in this same synergy, the vastus medialis, one of the quad muscles, actually decreased its contribution by about 8%.
Huh. So more glutes, slightly less VM in that push-off phase, maybe a shift towards hip extension power?
That's a plausible interpretation. It suggests a reweighting for potentially more efficient or powerful force generation.
Interesting. And the last one, synergy 4.
Synergy 4 is active mainly during the flight and landing phases. This involved the knee flexors, the hamstrings, and again, the gluteus maximus. But the most dramatic change here was in one of the quad muscles, the vastus lateralis. Its contribution increased by a massive 92% post-BFR.
92% increase for VL
Yeah.
in the landing phase. That's huge. What does that suggest?
It strongly suggests enhanced control or preparation for landing, perhaps better force absorption or stabilization, involving the quads much more actively after the BFR exercise.
Okay, so the overall jump plan stays, but the muscle contributions within that plan shift quite dramatically, especially the glutes getting more involved in propulsion and the VL in landing.
Precisely. And this is where that fancy WPT NMF analysis really adds another layer. It allowed them to look within those muscle signals at different frequencies.
Right, the sheet music detail. Why does breaking it down by frequency matter?
Because different frequencies in the EMG signal are thought to relate to different aspects of neuromuscular control. Lower frequencies might relate more to, say, the firing of fatigue-resistant slow-twitch motor units or broader synchronization, while higher frequencies are often linked to the recruitment of fast-twitch units and rapid force production.
Ah, okay. So it gives clues about how the nervous system is achieving those shifts in contribution. Is it recruiting different types of muscle fibers or changing firing rates?
Exactly. It provides a much more granular view of the neuromuscular adaptation happening. It's not just what changed, but potentially how it changed at the neural level.
So what did they find when they looked at these frequency bands? Let's start low.
Okay, in the lowest band they analyzed, 0 to 62.5 hertz, often linked to those slower, more synchronized motor units, they saw significant increases. Tibialis anterior in Synergy 1 went up 10%, maybe better ankle stability control. Gluteus maximus in Synergy 4, the landing one, up 11%. Biceps femoris, hamstring in Synergy 4, up 32%. But the standout, gluteus maximus in Synergy 2, that breaking to propulsion phase, its contribution in this low-frequency band shot up by 238%.
238%. In the low-frequency band for the glutes during push-off, what does that even mean?
It suggests a massive increase in the recruitment or synchronization of potentially more fatigue-resistant gluteal motor units,
Sure.
providing a much stronger foundation for that propulsive phase, really underpinning the drive phase with more hip power.
Wow. Okay, what about the middle frequencies?
Moving up to 62.5 to 125 hertz. Here, the main action was in Synergy 3, the main propulsion phase. They saw the vastus lateralis contribution decrease by 39%, while, again, the gluteus maximus increased by 87%.
So that trade-off we saw earlier, less VL, more GM and propulsion, seems prominent in this mid-frequency range too.
It does. It reinforces that idea of shifting the workload, perhaps optimizing how different motor unit types are contributing to the push.
All right, higher frequencies. Getting faster now.
Yep, 125 to 185 hertz. Here we saw gluteus maximus up again, 53% in Synergy 2. And remember that vastus medialis contribution went up massively in Synergy 4 for landing.
Yeah, the 92% overall increase.
Well, in this specific higher frequency band, the VM contribution in Synergy 4 increased by 100%, a doubling. Suggests more recruitment of faster motor units in the VM for that landing control.
Okay, a real boost in faster activation for landing and the very highest frequencies. Critical for that explosive pop.
Right, the highest band, 187.5 to 250 hertz, often linked to maximal rapid force generation. Here, the picture got really nuanced. Gluteus maximus in Synergy 1 actually decreased by 81%.
Decreased, right.
Vastus lateralis in Synergy 3, propulsion, decreased by 22%. But tibialis anterior in Synergy 3 increased by 75%.
So less superfast activation from glutes in the dip and VL in the push, but more superfast activation from the shin muscle during propulsion.
It seems so. It's like a highly specific fine-tuning.
Yeah.
Maybe reducing some very high-frequency drive from the big muscles allows for better control or coordination, potentially via increased tibialis anterior activity contributing to ankle stiffness or energy transfer during that final push-off. It's complex.
It really is. It's not just more is better. It's about optimizing the timing and frequency across different muscles. Let's connect the dots. Why does BFR trigger these specific complex changes? What's the mechanism?
Well, the leading theory revolves around the metabolic stress caused by the BFR. That low oxygen environment, the hypoxia in the muscle,
Right.
is thought to stimulate specific sensory nerves in the muscle called type 3 and 4 afferents. These signal back to the central nervous system.
And that signal causes what?
It seems to promote greater recruitment of muscle fibers, particularly the fast-twitch type 2 fibers, which are key for power. Even at low loads, you get this enhanced muscle activation that you'd normally only see with heavy lifting.
So the brain thinks it's working harder because of the restricted flow.
Kind of, yeah. The metabolic stress mimics some aspects of high-intensity exercise. Plus, another potential factor is reduced co-activation of antagonist muscles.
Meaning the muscles that oppose the main movement relax more.
Exactly. If the hamstrings, knee flexors, relax more, while the quads, knee extensors, are trying to push you up, you get more efficient force production, less internal braking.
Okay, so it's a combination of recruiting more powerful fibers and improving the coordination between opposing muscles.
That seems to be the picture. And the study suggests the CNS achieves this not by inventing new synergies, but by really skillfully modulating the neural drive within those existing stable synergy structures, tweaking the contributions across different muscles and different frequency bands. It's adaptive optimization.
The practical takeaway seems pretty clear then. BFR looks like a genuinely effective tool for boosting lower limb power quickly.
Absolutely. The applications for athletes in jumping sports, sprinting, team sports requiring explosive bursts, they're pretty significant. It offers a way to potentially enhance power without the same heavy load demands.
Now, you mentioned this was good research, and good research always acknowledges its limits. What were some limitations here?
Sure, they mentioned a few key ones. First, they only measured EMG from 8 muscles. While these are key movers, analyzing more muscles could potentially reveal different or more detailed synergy patterns.
Okay, the muscle selection matters.
It does. Also, they didn't use 3D motion capture, so while they measured jump height, they couldn't analyze detailed joint angles, velocities, or calculate joint torques. That limits how deeply they could connect the synergy changes to the actual biomechanics.
Gotcha. Anything else?
Well, they focused on the immediate acute effects on muscle activation patterns. They didn't directly measure neural adaptations like changes in corticospinal excitability using techniques like TMS or look at brain activity. So the CNS adaptations are inferred from the synergy changes, not directly measured at the source.
Right, so areas for future research to dig even deeper.
Definitely. It highlights that science is this ongoing process, always building on previous findings.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. To recap our deep dive today, we've seen pretty compelling evidence that a single session of blood flow restriction squats can significantly boost jump performance.
Yeah, an immediate effect. And what's really fascinating is how. It's not about the brain creating totally new movement plans.
Right, it's more subtle. It's about the CNS fine-tuning the existing muscle coordination patterns, those stable synergies, by adjusting how much each muscle contributes.
And doing that adjustment across different activation speeds, different frequency bands to optimize the output, especially boosting the role of the glutes, it seems.
Which leads to maybe a final thought to leave everyone with. What could this deeper understanding, looking at muscle synergies, not just overall, but in these time-frequency details, mean for the future?
Well, you start to imagine possibilities, right? Could we eventually design training or even rehab programs that are incredibly personalized, not just targeting muscles, but targeting specific neural activation patterns within those muscles?
Like tailoring an exercise not just for strength, but to specifically enhance, say, high-frequency activation in the glutes during propulsion based on someone's individual synergy profile.
Exactly. Or identifying subtle coordination issues post-injury by looking at these frequency-specific synergy changes. It opens up some really exciting possibilities for precision training and recovery down the line.
That's a fascinating prospect. So if you're as intrigued as we are by all this, we definitely encourage you to check out the full study.
Yeah, dive into the details yourself. Again, it's Chenxi and colleagues in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine, Volume 24, pages 578 to 588.
And of course, to make sure you don't miss our future deep dives into the amazing science of human performance and other fascinating topics, please remember to follow our channel and turn on those notifications.